This is part 3 of Diane's Galapagos vacation videos, showing you basically just pictures of what I saw in the Galapagos. If you're interested in when and how and where exactly we went, see the part 1 video. So part 2, I ended off with a video of one of the training camps for the tortoises that are being bred to try to repopulate the tortoise populations on the various islands. This frame from that video is showing the 5-year-old tortoises in the what they call a training camp enclosure, and they're just about ready to be released in the wild. The first year they started this tortoise breeding program, the first time they had tortoises ready to go, they released them at 3 years old, thinking that they could handle themselves just fine out in the wild. And they mostly could. However, at 3 years old, the tortoises are small enough that a Galapagos hawk can swoop down, pick it up, carry it to a height, and drop it, thus killing it so that the hawk can eat the tortoise. They lost many tortoises that year. It was very sad. And so then they started keeping the tortoises until they were 5 and no longer vulnerable to the Galapagos hawks. Here's a video of some younger, I believe these are 3-year-olds. They have numbers on their backs so that the scientists can keep track of who's who, and the color of the numbers, these ones are all pink, but they had different colored numbers for the subspecies from different islands. So these are all from a particular island. Here are some older tortoises. I don't know if they're part of the breeding program or if they're just being kept there for their own safety. But I like this video because you can see the tortoise there walking. They look very ancient. Okay, flightless cormorants. So here you can see, you can't see the head of course, but you can really see the wings on this cormorant, and they're the reasons it doesn't fly. The wings are very sad, very minimal, and couldn't possibly hold it up. They do, however, swim. So here we see a whole group of them just sitting out on the rocks. The next several pictures are taken from a stone stairway that is leading up from a very simple, very small stone dock where people get off to come to this particular island. And 4 or 5 cormorants had just decided they're going to build their nest there. So there were, I think there were 2 nests and then several cormorants hanging around, and we really had to move around them. They weren't scared of us. They didn't move away, so we had to walk wherever they weren't, which was usually on the rocks. You can see that guy just looking up like, what? I'm trying to sit here. Here's the staircase, and it leads off to the right there. You can't see the dock in this picture. They're pretty sizable birds. You can see them next to my husband there. Here's one swimming. We saw quite a few of those. And here's one just holding out its wing in a very nice way. I think I'm going to use this for my biology class, showing them how minimal the wing is. Here are, there's at least one nest here. So you got the 3 cormorants kind of hanging around. The pictures are nice, but seeing the animals actually moving, actually doing their everyday thing, preening themselves or whatever else, I find to be the best part. So I included this video of this one moving its head around. Here we see a crab, many crabs. I'll have some videos of crabs later on. But our guide Frederico here is showing us this exoskeleton. This is the hard outer covering. And just like a snake sheds its skin, the crabs grow inside this shell, and they get too big and they shed the whole shell. So there's no crab in here. It's just the outer shell. And then they walk away, and they're very soft at first, but then they grow a bigger, brighter, prettier shell once they're done with this one. Here is a frigate bird. We didn't get very close to many frigate birds. We saw quite a few of them flying, but I think this was the best flying picture I could get, so not the best in the world. The forked tail at the back, that's how you know for sure that's a frigate bird. They're maybe twice the size of the flightless cormorants. You can see. Yeah, the frigate birds didn't care for us. We never got very close. The panga drivers were so good about getting us close enough to take decent pictures and making sure that the people on both sides of the panga were able to see and get good pictures without their fellow tourists in the way. Land iguanas. I really liked these land iguanas. They were colorful. This one's not as colorful as some of them were, but they get this great yellow and orange color. At least the males do. This is a male land iguana, and he's got that typical yellow and orangish red color to him. The females are kind of grayish black. Sometimes the males had a little green on them as well. We tend to notice those ones more out on the lava rocks. I'm not sure if that has any significance. Here you can see one on the ground next to my husband for a little bit of size comparison. They're big, they're hefty, they're chunky. Here's a little headshot. Sorry I took all of these with my camera. That isn't the greatest picture in the world. Here's a nest of a land iguana. The females dig these. They dig them pretty deep. They were impressive. It takes them a while to do this, and so they'll go in and they'll work for a while, and then they'll come out and rest for a couple of minutes and then go back in and work some more. But they can't leave. They can't go far away from the cave because other female land iguanas will sneak in and try and lay a couple of eggs. So there are often fights during nest digging season between the females trying to make sure other females aren't taking advantage of their hard work. Here's another one. I just thought they were really tough and handsome looking. Here's a female land iguana. See, not nearly as brightly colored. And again, I always like to see them in motion. Land iguanas don't usually move very much. So I sat here for about 30 seconds trying to get him to move or to look towards me, and then eventually just gave up. That was the best I could get this particular iguana to do without actually touching him, which of course I didn't touch any of the animals. I lucked out getting this shot. Our naturalist guide was explaining something totally different as we were, and this guy just happened to be behind us, and someone made a noise or said something, and I turned around and here was this lizard walking towards me, and I'm like, oh, I gotta see this. So I just listened out of the corner of my ear to what our naturalist was saying to video this guy walking. He looks like some ancient dinosaur. Just amazing. They don't walk very far. They're cold-blooded. They have to be out in the sun to get enough heat going to really do a lot of activity, and that was about all he had in him that day. I started the video very quickly after he started, so that was all the walk that he did that particular while we were there. What the naturalist was describing while I was taking this video is also interesting. We were looking out at a big clear area with just some low grasses in it. It's a helicopter landing pad, or at least it used to be. Goats are a huge concern in the Galapagos. They were brought by humans back in the days when people didn't really understand conservation. And as you probably know, goats can just live on anything, any little thing, and thrive, and they just destroy stuff. So they were destroying all the vegetation on these islands and causing problems for the native animals in the islands. And so they had several years worth of an effort to get rid of all the goats. One of the things they did was to get a really big ram. Apparently, the other goats like to gather around the big ram and form a little herd. And so they would send the ram out onto the island, give him some time to gather a herd, and then snipers in these helicopters would kind of strafe the island. The big ram was GPS tagged, so they knew where he was, and they would shoot all of the other goats in the herd. And then they'd let the big goat, they called him the Judas goat, they'd let him out to gather another herd. And then they'd come and shoot all of those. So kind of scary and tragic, but interesting. You really have to get rid of the goats. Here's another look at a female lizard. The black one up top there is a marine iguana. I'm pretty sure. And here is another great picture. You had to be really lucky to get the good pictures and videos. This guy was, I took several photos of him and then got this video of him walking a little ways. And I will save this for part 4.